FiveNightsatFreddys is an incredibly popular franchise. What started off as a game made by one guy because somebody else said his last one was like garbage has turned into a massive horror juggernaut. I'm pretty sure I can find this guy on a shirt and Old Navy now. Despite FNAF's popularity though, there's still one game that I don't think enough people talk about despite it being one of the best franchises has to offer. And no, I'm not talking about Freddy Space 3 Chica in Space, though that does deserve Game of the Year. I'm talking about Curse of Dreadbear. Curse of Dreadbear is the DLC to the franchise's first VR entry, FNAFHelpWanted, and it offers 10 terrifying Halloween-themed levels that are all very distinct from one another. The DLC is honestly some of the most fun I've had with a FNAF game, and it's a shame that I rarely hear people talking about it because it definitely deserves to be praised a lot more. So in this video, I want to go over every minigame Curse of Dreadbear has to offer in order to give you my thoughts on the game and hopefully convince you to give it a shot. Okay, well let's not waste any more time and get into the video because it'll probably be a long one and I only have a week to work on it.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
The first minigame on the DLC is Plushkin Patch, which is pretty much just a reskin of the Plush Baby level from the base game. On one hand, I think that having a reskin for the first minigame is pretty lame, but on the other hand, I don't know, it's still pretty fun. Your goal here is to survive until 6 AM by using your flashlight to find and get rid of Plush Babies before they jump scare you. They like to do that a lot. Speaking of which, while I wouldn't call the minigame itself scary, this is the only one in DLC with jump scares caught me off guard every single time. Sometimes I'll get rid of a Plush Baby and think I was safe, only for another one to come out of nowhere to kill me. These guys hide super well, by the way. I'll shine my flashlight all over the map and not see anybody, but I'll still get jump scared. This minigame is honestly the one I struggle with the most. There's also random noises that can happen as distractions, and it worked on me pretty much every time. In fact, here's a short little compilation of all the times the distraction caught me off guard. I think it's cool that the Plush Babies wear masks of the animatronics as if they're dressing up for Halloween, and I like to see entering this minigame. Also, Plushkin Patch is a fun name. I like it. Plushkin Patch is a good start to the DLC, even if it is just a reskin of a level from the base game. I just realized that FNAFHelpWanted 2 also has a reskin of the Plush Baby minigame. Why does Steel like it so much?
Why's my claws in making pirates?
Pirate Ride is a minigame similar to rides like Toy Story Mania or Illumination's Villain Con Mini Blast, which is a ride that, not to brag or anything, I am absolutely cracked at. In the minigame, you move through the ride's track layout and try to shoot targets to get points. At the end of the ride, you'll get a rank depending on your score, and if it's slow enough, Pirate Foxy will jump scare you. Traveling through the ride is honestly pretty fun, even without the shooting aspect. The drop at the end was cool, and I really like the cardboard cutouts found throughout the ride, especially the Pirate Helpy and Ghost Bonnie ones. The latter is a great example of foreshadowing. I also like that the cardboard cutouts actually move. It helps add a lot more kineticism to the ride. Take notes, Disney. That being said, there's a complaint I have about this minigame, which is very nitpicky, but as a fan of theme parks and rides, this bothers me. For some reason, the pirate ride isn't an actual boat ride like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a dark ride like Cat in the Hat, except Cat in the Hat is actually scary. I don't understand how Seawolf made an entire pirate-themed ride with sections where you go underwater and didn't even make it a water ride. Thankfully, they learned their lesson and made the pirate ride minigame and FNAFHelpWanted 2 an actual boat ride, except it actually makes less sense in that game because the ride there has a western theme, not a pirate one. If anything, that should have been a dark ride. Stupid complaining aside, Pirate Ride is a nice little break from the horror the rest of the DLC has to offer, and I think it's a fun time. Wait, that's on the right path. Okay, so remember the Helpy cardboard cutouts mentioned not too long ago? Well, since Steelwool loves abusing this poor guy, if you shoot him, you will unlock secret paths where the actual horror of the minigame is hidden. During these segments, you have to hit these red buttons to protect yourself from Jacko, Bonnie, and Chica, while also shooting the purple circles if you want to get more points. I think it's cool that you have the option to take an actually challenging path, at least compared to the normal one since there's literally no way to die during it. Also, you get rewarded with more points by doing this, which is pretty cool. I wouldn't really call these secret paths scary. They are scarier than the normal ones, though to be fair, that's not exactly a high bar to cross. Of course, the paths with characters designed to be scary are scarier than the ones with Mermaid Chica. Pirate Ride is a fun minigame that offers both a break from the horror and even a bit more of it. The next one is just terrifying.
Foxy the Ferocious.
In Corn Maze, your goal is to collect one of 4 keys and find the exit that corresponds to it in order to escape the maze made of, you guessed it, wood. However, getting a key won't be so easy because Grim Foxy is roaming around and he's gonna give you a jump scare if he finds you. I don't know if you've noticed, but the gameplay footage I'm using right now isn't in VR like the rest, and that's for a reason. This minigame is way too scary. I can handle a maze and I can handle getting chased by a monster, but what I can't handle is getting chased by a monster in a maze, especially in VR. Knowing that at any second I could turn a corner and see Grim Foxy's ugly mug is terrifying, and it doesn't help that the guy is fast. Speaking of which, if Grim Foxy finds you, you'll need to go inside of a hiding spot. I didn't realize this at first, but you actually have to hold your mouse in order to stay hidden. I'm not exactly sure how I didn't notice that. Also, walking over to the hiding spots whenever Grim Foxy found me was super tense. This minigame doesn't actually have a run button, and slowly walking over to the hiding spot while Grim Foxy was getting ready to run straight towards me had me panicking. By the way, I really like the art for the hiding spots, and I'm pretty sure this Shadow Bonnie one was reused in Security Breach. I don't know why Security Breach reused so many cardboard cutouts from this game. I'm pretty sure the Pirate Helpy and Mermaid Chica ones were also in there. Oh, and if you get all 4 keys, then you can enter a secret scared area and get the Vanny mask, which sets her up to be the main villain of the next game. They didn't really follow through on that, did they? I didn't get the other keys though, I just took one and ran to an exit. I was not trying to mess around with this guy. Cornmaze is a good combination of fun and very scary. Seriously, I'm not sure how people do this in VR. In the hallway, you have to walk through, well, a hallway, while avoiding the Nightmare animatronics. Nightmare Bonnie and Chico will appear through the doors and will kill you if you're near them. Nightmare Foxy will spawn in front of you, and moving when lightning strikes will cause them to run to and jump scare you, and Nightmare Freddy spawns behind you, killing you if you're too slow. Much like Cornmaze, this minigame is really scary, and as you probably noticed, I decided to play it in flat mode. You can call me a coward all you want, but just know, you'd be correct. Every single time I came near your door, I was terrified of Nightmare Foxy spawning, preventing me from moving as either Bonnie or Chica came through the doors. I never really found Freddy to be a problem though. As long as you just keep moving and don't stop for too long, he shouldn't jump scare you at all. I love the reveal at the end that you were in the hallway leading to the FNAF 4 bedroom. I really did not expect that, but now that I think about it, it was really obvious. The hallway is really similar to the one in the plush shop minigame. I think I might just be dumb. My main problem with this minigame is that it's just less fun than the others. It's not bad or anything, and the scary atmosphere did a good job of stopping the minigame from being boring, but the gameplay here is pretty much just move forward, stop when an animatronic shows up, and then keep going when they leave. Then when I think about it, Hallway is just a better version of Sister Location's Valora Gallery. Also like the FNAF 4 connection, since that's the only other FNAF game of a Halloween expansion like this. I'm not sure if that's why they added a FNAF 4 level, maybe they just thought that Nightmare Freddy was the scariest thing ever and that he just needed to be in the game, but either way, I think the FNAF 4 inclusion is cool. While Hallway is one of the scary minigames in Curse of Dreadbear, it is brought down slightly by its average gameplay. The Foxy plush is cool though.
Building time. Building time.
Build-a-Mangle starts off with the announcer guy that has a nice voice, telling you that you're going to be assembling an animatronic performer that'll bring joy to children at one of the many FNAFVR's pizza locations. Define joy. Your goal in this minigame is to take the parts on the conveyor belt that match the ones on the TV screen and put them in the chute. However, if you get something wrong, Mangle will show up in the vents. Get enough wrong and he'll jump scare you. Also, there are Freddles on the conveyor belts and you're supposed to shock them when they get close to you, though I'm not exactly sure why. They'll jump scare you even if you shock them, and they don't kill you when they do, so I guess they're just here to mess with you, which they did. Anyways, if you fail to get enough parts for your masterpiece, Announcer Man tells you to seek employment elsewhere, and then Mangle kills you. That's one way to weed out the bad employees, I guess. Mangle's jump scare really scared me the first time, by the way. I fully expected her to just run down his vent and then do the jump scare, but no, he just shows up. It was horrifying. My main problem with this minigame is that sometimes I'm super close to one of the parts, but I just can't grab it. I'm not sure if the hitboxes are just weird or if I just suck, but I ended up having to beat the minigame in flat mode because I just couldn't do it in VR. Also, in flat mode, parts can sometimes block the chute, and I'm not sure why that happens, but it's pretty annoying. That being said, I found Build-a-Mangle to be really fun, and I'm excited to see how my art will be received by the children of Freddy Fazbear's.
Are you guys going trick-or-treating?
Trick-or-treat reminds me a lot of that game where a ball gets put into one of 3 cups, and you have to guess which one it's in after they get moved around a bit. Your goal here is to look through the windows of this mansion in order to keep track of the withered animatronics and Balloon Boy to see which one will be at the door when the timer runs out. Then, you need to grab the mask that corresponds to the character at the door in order to prevent them from jump scaring you. Also, Mangle will show up in rounds 2 and 3 to block the windows, and to get rid of him, you need to grab the Mangle mask and stare at her. This minigame is honestly really easy, and I didn't even die once, but the moments before the door opens to reveal the animatronic on the other side are very suspenseful. Even if I knew I had the correct mask, I kind of just peek under my headset a little bit. The masks are kind of weird though because they don't come off unless you move them in a specific way, I think. I'm honestly not sure how they work, and I had to restart the first time this happened to me because I thought the game just broke. I kind of find it weird that the minigame uses the withered animatronics instead of the nightmares, but I don't really mind that much since it adds more variety to the characters found in the DLC, and also Withered Chica is one of the few characters in this franchise to genuinely freak me out. Trick-or-treat is an easy minigame, but I still enjoyed my time playing it. By the way, I found the concept of going trick-or-treating at a house full of murder animatronics really funny. Somebody must be incredibly desperate for candy in order to go this far.
Let's try another controlled shock.
Dreadbear is a minigame in the same style as the Pardon Service ones in the base game. In it, you have to bring Dreadbear to life by giving him a brain. Before you put the brain in his head though, you need to bring it to the correct size, make sure all the colors match the ones on the screen, and have these yellow radio waves match the red ones. Also, the power can occasionally go out, meaning that you'll have to reset it in order to see the screens again. However, if you reset too much, Dreadbear will jump scare you. I love the opening to this minigame where you have to spin a wheel to bring Dreadbear down to the operation area. I thought it was pretty cool. This is easily my favorite Pardon Service like level in the FNAFHelpWanted games. The main thing I don't really like about it is that it's a bit too short. I wish Steel did what they later did for FNAFHelpWanted 2 Salon minigames, where there were multiple rounds and make you fix Dreadbear's brain 1 or 2 more times. Also, for some reason, in order to stop Dreadbear from jump scaring you when you give him his brain, you need to reset the power, which I think is really dumb. Why add something that you're supposed to use as little as possible and then make using it required for completion? There's really not a lot to say about Dreadbear. The minigame is pretty simple, but I still thought it was fun.
I'm in danger!
At a first glance, the 3 Nights of Danger Keep Out just look like a Halloween reskin of FNAF 1. But let me tell you, it is much more than that. By the way, I'm talking about all 3 nights in one section because the basic gameplay in here is pretty much identical in all of them. The most obvious change in this minigame is removal of the doors. You see, since FazBear Entertainment seemingly spent their entire budget on pumpkins, they decided to take away the doors and replace them with wooden boards. These obviously aren't as sturdy as doors, so when the animatronics make it to your office, they'll try to break it down. Speaking of the animatronics, in order to prevent them from reaching your office, you have to use a flash beacon on the cameras and doors. Each use of the flash beacon takes away 20% of your power, and if it gets to 0, you'll need to reset it. During the reset, you are very vulnerable to animatronic attacks, since you can't flash them if they start breaking your boards, so you better make sure to conserve as much power as possible and get rid of them before resetting. The only animatronics you have to deal with in the first night are Jacko Bonnie and Jacko Chica, who work like they do in the original game. It'll also take 3 hits for them to knock down your boards and to kill you, so you have time to flash them when they get to your office. Now, you might be thinking that dealing with these two is going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience even. After all, the only thing you gotta do is find them on the cameras and flash them. But here's the thing, it's incredibly hard to see them in the cameras when they're stationary. You see, during movement, the animatronics will be glowing because, well, that's what jack-o'-lanterns do. However, the moment they stop moving, they stop glowing. You can still see them in most cameras if you look close enough, but doing so will be made very hard because not only are they hidden in the dark, but there's also pumpkins littered around the place that will block your view. Oh, and I should probably mention that you can't actually flash the animatronics when they aren't moving, so even if you do find one of them while stationary, you can't use a flash beacon right away. That being said, I actually wasn't finding this night to be too hard or scary. I was doing a pretty good job at flashing the animatronics before they made it to my office, and I rarely wasted power. Then this happens. For the entire night, I was going under the assumption that even if I missed the animatronics on the cameras, I'd be able to flash them while they were walking to my office. For some reason, I completely forgot that these two idiots can just skip the hallway phase and teleport to the camera closest to the door. When I realized they could do this, the minigame became a lot scarier. I was on edge for the last hour of that first night, never sure if Jacko, Bonnie, or Chica went into the door cams without me knowing. Resetting the power went from being a minor inconvenience to being incredibly nerve-wracking. Thankfully, I managed to survive this night and moved on over to night 2. This is where things get real. During this night, Grim Fox is introduced. The way he works is that he'll slowly make his way out of Pirate Cove, and once he fully gets out, he'll run to your office and destroy the wooden boards in one hit. In order to stop him from doing this, you'll need to flash him while he's leaving the cove. At first, Grim Fox's inclusion doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. As long as you don't forget that he exists, countering him is super easy, and never even died to him during my playthrough. Well, my playthrough of this night, that is. The reason that Grim Fox's introduction makes this minigame a lot harder is that he wastes more power. You only have 5 flashes before you need to reset, so using one of them on Grim Foxy has the potential to completely ruin a run. For example, here I had 1 more flash left to use and Jacko Chica was almost at my door. However, Grim Foxy was also coming out of the cove, and if I didn't flash him before resetting the power, he would probably kill me. So, I flashed him and decided to take my chances with Chica. Big mistake. Also, I might be crazy, but I swear that Jacko, Bonnie, and Chica appeared on the cams a lot less this night. There were a lot of times where I didn't see them until they were right next to my door. Thankfully, I eventually made it past this night and moved on to night 3. Night 3 wasn't really that bad since at this point I knew what I was doing, but I didn't actually manage to beat it. Okay, I almost did, but after I got to 5 AM, I had to take my headset off to do something, and by the time I got back, I kind of forgot what was happening and got jump-skipped by Dreadbear. I'd love to play a clip of this happening, but as you've probably noticed, SteamVR hates me and thought it would be funny to have this be on the screen for a bit. Excuses aside, Night 3 introduces Dreadbear, and he'll slowly make his way to your office as the night progresses. In order to stop him, you have to use the flash beacon, which won't set him back like the others, but stun him. He'll also destroy the boards in one hit when he gets to you. Honestly, Dreadbear really wasn't that hard to deal with. Sure, it's difficult to see him, but I just kept flashing random cameras, and that worked out until it didn't. Even the issue I had on night 2 of not having enough power to deal with Jacko, Bonnie, or Chica went away here. You see, on night 2 I accidentally reset the power at 20%, and I realized that the resetting took less time than usual. So my strategy for this night was to quickly flash the 4 animatronics and then reset, which would prevent me from being defenseless for too long. After I started doing this, I don't even think that Jacko, Bonnie, or Chica made it to my door while resetting. Grim Foxy did though. I found Dreadbear walk into the office to be really scary, by the way. I know you probably can't see very well thanks to SteamVR, but the guy is big. There's really not a lot I have to say about night 3. It's not nearly as difficult as I thought it would be. Again, I totally would have won if I didn't have to go do something. The Danger Keep Out minigames are some of the most fun and scary that Cursed Dreadbear has to offer. I'm sure that if I played Core Maze in VR, I consider that to be the scariest one, but even then, nothing in the DLC beats the sense of dread I felt whenever I was resetting the power and I saw an animatronic's orange glow coming towards me.
Sorry to disappoint, that is not where this ends.
Okay, now I finished talking about all the minigames. Before I end the video, I want to talk about some things outside of the minigames. I liked all the new characters introduced in the DLC, even if there are just 3 of them. I guess the cardboard cutouts could be considered to be new characters, but like, I'm not going to consider Mermaid Chica a real new character until she gets added as a FNAF AR skin. Never mind. Grim Fox is honestly one of my favorite designs in the whole franchise, and Dreadbear is really good too. It probably would have made more sense to name him something like FrankenFreddy, since he's literally meant to be Frankenstein Freddy, but Dreadbear is a much cooler and original name, so I'm glad they went with that. I love the hub world. It's visually my favorite of all the Help Wanted games, and I like how the sky also designed turned red like in FNAF 4. Also, the help animations and hub music are cool. However, for some reason, the hub world has a hard mode switch from the base game, even though there aren't any minigames there, so like, why not just remove it? The game over area is really good as well. I love how Grim Foxy is right behind you, and the big Dreadbear is really cool in VR. Last thing I want to talk about here are the bugs in the game, because there's a weird amount of them. My closed captions just didn't work with the Pirate Ride and Dreadbear minigames, even though they have dialogue, and when I went to the menu I realized that the captions just randomly turned off. I never did this, and I'm honestly not sure if this is a problem with Curse of Dreadbear or the game itself. Night 3 of Danger Keep Out was easily the buggiest minigame here. The biggest bug I encountered was when my game just froze, and after I stopped recording, it crashed. Then for the next day or so, my computer's video player was saying that the Dreadbear recordings were using an unsupported video format, despite them working perfectly fine earlier. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. At first, I thought that my link cable was just being freaky, but that's not what was happening, because in between my two Night 3 sessions, I got some Help Wanted 2 footage and did the secret path for the Pirate Ride minigame. Then when I went back to Night 3, it started freezing and lagging again. I genuinely don't know why this was happening for this night in particular and not the others. It was really annoying. Well, that's what I want to talk about aside of the minigames. Now I think it's time to give my thoughts as to why the DLC isn't very popular and wrap up the video. In conclusion, Curse of Dreadbear is some of the most fun I've had of a FNAF game. It's a perfect mix of Help Wanted's horror and Help Wanted 2's more Mario Party style minigames. But if the game is that good, then why isn't it talked about much? Well, I have two possible reasons for this. Reason A, there's really no story here. One of the main appeals of the FNAF franchise is its incredibly convoluted story. There's so many mysteries to solve, like, is Gregory a robot? Did William Afton really die? Or was that the bite of 87? The story is a big reason as to why people still talk about the original games to this day. But Curse of Dreadbear doesn't really have a story. I mean, it's got the Vanity Mask, but that just meant to be a tease for the next main villain of the franchise. She's in the next game for 2 minutes. I guess the game also has the first mention of Fall Fest, which is like the big thing everyone's talking about right now, but I don't think there's any crazy information about it or anything. The first thing that happens when he starts DLC is an announcer guy saying that this is just meant to be a fun holiday add-on with no ulterior motives, and I'm 90% sure that this is Steel Wool telling certain people not to look too deep into the game and to just have fun with it. I really don't think Dreadbear needed a story shoehorned into it either, because a fun minigame collection is really all it should be in my opinion. Not everything needs to reveal crazy new lore, and it's nice to have a game that's just here for fun. The second reason as to why I don't think many people talk about Curse of Dreadbear is that it's a DLC to a VR game. Having a game be in VR already shrinks the player base, and DLCs are usually played by less people than a game they're a part of in the first place. I know this isn't the best way to determine how many people play a DLC, but as of writing this video, the base Help Wanted has 11,348 reviews on Steam. Curse of Dreadbear has 298. I don't think that Dreadbear was a failure or anything, but it is considerably less popular than Help Wanted, and that's a shame, because in many ways Curse of Dreadbear is just as, if not more fun than that game. I'd honestly rather go back to play something like Build-a-Mangle instead of a minigame in Help Wanted like Plush Trap. That's pretty much it for this video. If any of the minigames I talked about sounded interesting, then I'd recommend that you go play Curse of Dreadbear. Wait for it to go on sale though, because while Help Wanted and Curse of Dreadbear are worth the price tag, they do go on sale quite often. This will probably be my last video dedicated to FNAF until I finish the big Into the Pit one I've been working on, which might take a while, but if you want to see it when it comes out, then you should subscribe. I usually don't ask for things like that, but I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, and I'd like to hit that before the year ends. Now, you excuse me, I've got to go legally take candy from strangers. Hopefully, I don't run into Freddy Fazbear. Bye, I guess.